'Tis the season for Christmas movies. This one, however, is slightly different from those usual playful and wholesome movies that you normally see around Christmas time. No, here instead we have a brutal, ass-kicking, hammer-wielding Santa Claus who is trying to save Christmas for one particular family, but not in the traditional way. This was a very fun and entertaining movie. I had an absolute blast. It isn't by all means a perfect movie or like the best Christmas movie that you'll ever see, but it is one of those movies not to take too seriously and just to try to enjoy. And I say that because there's a lot that doesn't make sense in this movie, but I'll get to that a bit later. David Harbour, for the most part, was pretty damn good in this one, and I would be lying if I said I didn't go into this movie mainly for him. And I think the best part about this movie was the brutal action, especially towards like the final act of the movie. A lot of the kills were very satisfying to watch, and I just loved the home invasion theme, and how this movie takes certain things from other movies and genres to make it feel very familiar. For example, there are some references to Home Alone, and this movie is kind of similar to those movies since it is largely set within one big house. And there's even quite a funny homage to those movies towards the end of this movie. And being a Christmas movie, this movie certainly didn't lack the Christmas spirit and the Christmas themes. We get to learn a lot about this Santa Claus variant and his tricks and Christmas magic, which was quite fun. The only thing that was really missing though were elves. But along with being fun and action-packed, this was also actually a surprisingly emotional movie too, as there was a lot between this girl and David Harbour's Santa Claus. I'm sure like most of or if not all of the Christmas movies do this. I'm still going to get into it though, but it just reminded me of like how much fun I had as a kid during Christmas and like how much Christmas meant to me back then. So I'm still glad that this movie, still had that Christmas spirit about it, even though it was largely an action-packed bloody rampage. I mean, you kind of expected though, with the Christmas theme of the movie, but still, some instances in the movie got me right in my feels, especially like at one point where all the kids' toys and gifts got melted away in the fire. Ah, man. I thought it was also quite funny how this movie's Santa Claus had somewhat of a backstory as well. It was pretty brief. I'm not going to spoil it as well, but I'm glad that there was at least something. Although some might argue that it wasn't enough, which I might be inclined to agree on. Like, despite there being something, it largely felt like there could have been more to it, or like it felt like it didn't really need to be there at all, because his backstory just kind of felt out of place for like a large part of this movie. And his actions didn't really correlate to it either, especially early on. His backstory didn't really mean anything until like around the final act of the movie, like where even though it was, it was fun to watch, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. I feel like they just plopped that in right towards the end of like production or something. And that's why I say that this movie isn't something to take too seriously, because a lot of things don't make sense and a lot of things work out so well for some of the main characters. I also didn't really find myself caring too much for the story. It was short, like it was pretty generic for the most part, as you'd kind of expect though. But you know what? I actually kind of like the main antagonist of this movie, Mr. Scrooge. I didn't think I would, but despite brief, he still had like some sort of backstory and a motive, and at one point he almost felt like a video game final boss. Ultimately, Violent Night is a great action-packed and gruesome Christmas-themed movie that you really shouldn't take too seriously and just try to have fun with. And even though the ending didn't really go the way I thought it would go to make it ultimately a better movie, more on that after my official rating of the movie, it still felt satisfying enough. I'm going to give Violent Night a B. Okay, so this might count as spoilers, I'm just gonna warn you, but what I meant with like the ending being better, I kind of wish that Mr. Scrooge had like a change of heart, instead of just dying, because I just felt like it could have been a lot more wholesome and heartwarming, Because I'm sure we saw like glimpses of him opening up to us in this movie, and I feel like just changing someone's attitudes and beliefs and, ultimately their heart is better than just killing them. But I guess some people just can't be changed. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think down below. Like and sub if you enjoyed. And as always, feel free to check out any of my previous videos. Until next time.